there's this group of there's this uh a house. So I go to most of the time I stay at my girlfriend's house, and there's this house a few a few houses away. There's this family, and there's these group of kids who always are outside. And I drive by there one day, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how strange it was to see a bunch of kids out in the yard, like playing catch or just playing around jump roping. They always saw lemonade, just out there doing things that involve like their imagination, and it was so strange to me. And I've been thinking about like this everything that's this current day and age we live in, 2019, going on to 2020, and all the chaos going on in the world, whether it be from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, from looking at your phone and then looking at a TV and then listening to people talk about what they saw on the TV or what they saw on their phone. And then when you go to school, everything is done through a computer screen. Everything's done through some form of social media, some form of connection. Letters aren't common anymore. The ability to like face-to-face talking is almost obsolete for a large part of the population. And I was born in 96. And I was born at a time where internet was around, but the internet wasn't prevalent. It wasn't, I didn't have it. I mean, like, we had a computer, but that was about it. Flip phones, all that. Not that long ago. I mean, it was at 20, I'm 9, 10, 23 years ago. I'm 22 years old. And I drive by this house, and these kids are out there. Like, whatever they're doing, I don't know. Like, just running around and just being kids. And I watch the news, and, a Fortnite competition pops up, which I'm sure you guys know about. This guy wins $3 million playing a video game. And my first reaction is to not get upset, but you don't get upset, but you're shocked, because you have my childhood and a lot of people around me who grew up, and I understand the days where there wasn't instant gratification, and there wasn't social media, and there wasn't phones, and there wasn't just artificial light all the time. You went outside, you would walk around the park. Your phone wasn't connected to everybody in the world, so when you were taking breaks, you were taking a break. You were just on with the person. You were just with one other person, or you were just with yourself. And it doesn't work like that anymore. And I've always been thinking, like, I've been pondering the thought, like, I don't like the good versus the bad of that. And like, the truth is, and I don't watch anything political. I don't watch debates. I don't like the two Democratic debates been going on. And for my political identity, I don't like that. I don't like to identify as anything. Like, I don't Democrat views, Republican views. Like, that's my stance on that stuff. But there is one gentleman that I do follow, and he was on a podcast I watched, Andrew Wang, and he's a really interesting guy. But he brought up a point that I think is so damn important, and something that I think 2-3 years ago I would have said there's no way to stop it. And he brought up this point where there's so many distractions in this world. You hear things like the United States is like the most racist country, or you hear things like sexism is as at its all-time high. The United States is a terrible country. Concentration camps near the border, and you hear these these claims. And although there's many, many bad things about the world that we live in, there's a lot of things that are 100% true and factual statements. Making an accusation that the border is as bad as concentration camps is absurd. sit. I mean, if that is the truth, then if there's a Holocaust survivor sitting right next to that individual who made that statement, they should be able to make eye contact and say that. I guarantee that would not go well. 12 of our presidents have been slave owners. You know, the world has been, right now, the world that we live in, and the reason why so many issues are coming up, these issues that are coming up are issues that are very bad. They are going on, but up to a point where it's almost like boredom. And there's so many things going on around us all the time that it's so hard for anybody to have like a continuative thought on any subject. And everything has to be exploited. Everything has to be, in order to get clicks, in order to get your opinion out there, everything has to be bold and aggressive and long words, and words that have so much meaning behind them, and words that used to have a lot of meaning. Like growing up, if you were racist, you were racist. I knew what a racist was. If you were sexist, I knew what a sexist was. If you were a Nazi, I knew what a Nazi was. But nowadays, these words are thrown around everywhere. Racist, Nazi, sexist, and although some people may have characteristics of that, the people who are still actually like the Nazis, and the people who are still actually the racist, the people who kill, the people who rape, the people who attack, those people are now in the same category with somebody who might have made a remark one time that wasn't fully developed and blew up overnight, and they're called racist. There's no separation, and it's a dangerous situation. You have things flowing into one, like two completely different characteristics of people are now becoming one big ball of fire. And it's so confusing for people. It's so confusing to have a thought. I would have opinions. Opinions nowadays are shared with millions. Having an individual idea, having a thought that isn't shared by maybe your neighbor, by somebody up the street, as long as it isn't hurting or stepping on someone else's human rights, or as long as it's not bringing somebody else down, that opinion should be valid. And it's so scary to see people, kids, adults, older people, to keep talking about subjects that they have no idea on, like they have no research on. And so many things are just fed like babies. Like a 4-year-old hears something and then they say it. Like if a dad says something while the mom is around, he might turn to the kid and be like, hey, don't tell mom that. The kid's gonna go tell mom that. It's you would think as decades go on and as years go on, the world would be able to minimize the damage of mental health, the severity of mental illness. Anxiety is at an all-time high. Depression is at an all-time high. Suicide is at an all-time high. Drug use is at an all-time high. Alcoholism related deaths are at an all-time high. Prescription drugs being administered to people who don't suffer from anything is at an all-time high. These are 6 major things that, as the world advances, as the world becomes more intelligent, as the world becomes more receptive to other people's opinions and other people's thoughts, you would think those would all minimize. They haven't. They haven't minimized. Everything is still, as much as technology has advanced, everything is still about what is best for me. And it's scary to see. It's scary to drive by a house and see kids out there playing, and my first thought is, oh, what's going on? Because that was me growing up. As a child, I was never inside. Never inside. I have thoughts and opinions that don't correlate with any news station. that don't correlate with a lot of people. And I stand by those until they're proven to me not to be true. And like I said, there's a big difference between having opinions that you believe in and having opinions that you believe in that hurt other people. That's not good. And I didn't watch the debates or anything, but I'm sitting there and, you always hear CNN and it's so ironic. You hear CNN and Fox going after big tech companies, going after Mark Zuckerberg, going after Twitter, going after YouTube, going after Google, going after anything you can imagine. And it's insane to think about this. Think about this. These networks, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google, I don't know, Snapchat, whatever, Amazon. Okay, they have data. I get it. But they are the biggest outsource of information. Your CNN, your Fox, these news channels constantly complain and try to remove these certain platforms because I don't know the full reasons, but a lot of it has to do with data breaching. Like, you're giving up your data and you're not aware of it. But if it wasn't for these platforms, CNN and Fox probably wouldn't be around anymore. CNN and Fox tweets. They have Twitter handles. They have Facebook handles. They have YouTube handles. They have all these things. And everything, if you just look around everywhere now, everything's so hypocritical. Everything is so, it fits an agenda until it doesn't anymore. And the moment it doesn't fit an agenda anymore, it's gone. We've seen it since the beginning of time. The United States of America has flip-flopped on Republican versus Democrat presidents all the time. And every single thing going on right now, whether it be immigration, drugs, prison reform, whatever it is, it's an issue every 4 years. And it never gets fixed. It never gets solved. It's a jungle gym, and people are addicted to it. People are absolutely addicted to it. And it's hilarious that 9 people debating, yelling at each other about how to run certain things and how to their idea on what's best for the country, the world, whatever. They're supposed to be on the same team and they're attacking each other. I would never, if you're a coach of a football team and you show up to practice day one, you show up to practice day one and your team's just fighting each other. I'm talking fist fighting or verbally arguing or not talking to each other. You would grab your team, you would sit them down, and you say, guys, what the fuck is going on? Girls, what the fuck is going on? We have to fix this now, or we're not going to win. We're not going to beat the other team. But instead, you get these people up there just bickering and arguing, and it's the most hilarious thing to see, especially when you see older people just thrive off of it. I've seen people before. You watch the most insecure people in the world just sit up there and yell about what President Trump said or what Nancy Pelosi said. It's like, what is happening? How much of anything that's ever being spoken is truthful? It's complete chaos. It's absolute chaos, and it's so confusing. It's so confusing that to ask somebody in 1999 what the world will look like in 2019. Jesus Christ. It's not that. It's definitely not that. But with that being said, it's there's nowhere else you would rather be. It's so crazy to think that you would not, if you are a United States citizen, this is people who say this is the worst country and that they want to move. Billions of people around the world want to move here. What does that say? There's countries where you still can't have a certain number of kids, where you still can't go out and get a job, where you can't walk down the street after a certain time of the day or you will get killed. there's issues in this world that overshadow our next interest increase rate or whatever the nonsense is. I always bring up. I've talked to people about this. I've talked to my girlfriend about this. The evolution of Donald Trump from being the man that everybody wanted to party with, and everybody wanted a place at his hotel, and everybody wanted to hang out with him, fly his private jets, being rapped about in songs and rap songs, hanging out with Jay-Z, to being the most hated person in the world. I mean, that clearly isn't true because he's won the presidency. Clearly, a lot of people supported him. And that change, that evolution is so strange to think about. It's so strange to think about, like how, I mean, I get it. He's super ignorant. He makes racist and sexist remarks. And is he a bad person? Most likely. But the one thing I think is pretty truthful and I think could help a lot of people is if you are dealing with a narcissistic, borderline sociopathic person, you can't keep feeding them. They thrive off of it, the negativity. That's what gets them up out of bed every day. So it's like instead of like you think that you're putting the fire out by throwing more shade or more typical controversial topics on a human being. Now, if you throw that on somebody who isn't a narcissist or isn't a sociopath, they probably would fold and fall apart. But if you throw that on top of somebody who is narcissistic, possibly sociopathic, I would say yes. You're just building a fire. You're building a fire. And I don't know how I got to that topic. But I just remember being a kid and just always out there playing and hanging out and making up different images in my head about what I wanted to be when I grew up. And, I remember going to my friend's house and just walking in the door. Like the moment it was 9 o'clock in the morning, we were all up. And if you weren't up, I was going to wake you up. Like my best friend would come over and wake me up. Hey dude, it's 9 o'clock. What are you doing? I'm like sleeping. It's like, oh, well, we're going to go outside. And what are we doing outside? I don't know, but we're outside. And then you go outside, eat a bunch of popsicles, then wait for the ice cream truck to come, go build a fort, maybe swim in a lake or a pond or whatever was around, get on a bike, almost break your leg, but you just get a scratch, go cry to your mom, she bandages up, and then you grill cheese, and then you're out by 8. And it was a world that I wouldn't say it was easier, but it was less connected. And connection's a good thing. Connection is a great thing, but too much connection is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Just not. People lose their mind. I mean, look at my little brain guy right here. If all of these parts of the brain are just firing all day, and for you guys on audio, I'm pointing to like this little bust I have of a human head with a brain, and it has each section of the brain broken down and saying what function it is. I mean, imagine this brain right here, just one section being shot at the whole time. Like the path, like what if, I don't know, creativity was just fired and everything else shut off? The person would probably go insane. Or the other way around, what if everything was being shot at? The person would go insane. There's just too many stimuli coming in all at once. And it's crazy to think that like meditation is at an all-time high. And what is meditation? It's silence. It's being able to sit there in quietness. Just being there with your thoughts. It's such a monumental thing. I mean, people know how important it is. But we always knew that. I knew that as a kid. I knew that. I mean, you would get in trouble and you would have to go. I mean, I would have to stand in a corner to think about what you did. You don't do that. You don't think about what you said anymore. You can't. There's no, in the culture that we've developed, there's no like thinking about what you said anymore. Because the moment you say it, the moment it comes out of your face, it's there forever. because people are writing about it, people are tweeting about it, people are videoing you, picturing of you. And there's also no room to say something absolutely wrong, which, I mean, we've all done thousands of times. And it's so interesting. I mean, it's like it's gotten to a point where you can't even you can't really apologize for anything anymore, because like an apology isn't accepted form of understanding anymore. So you just got to ignore everything nowadays, and it creates a wall between you versus me, a wall that used to be understandably there, but nowadays it's not, because it's really hard if you are on Team Red and you agree with something on Team Blue. If you agree, you're outcast from Team Red. You're not accepted by Team Blue. You're just not on a team. Isolation is scary for people. You don't want that. People hate that. People hate the idea that they aren't accepted by another group. That's terrifying. Understandably so. Yeah, understandably so. And it's sad to see. It's frustrating to see. It's frustrating to just watch. I don't know. I want to get off the topic. It was just on my head, and there's this, take a walk, go play with a dog, go take a walk around a park, go walk around a lake, go outside and throw a baseball against the wall, throw it up in the sky and catch it. You remember doing that as a kid? Get some wood and a hammer and nails and make something. Go plant shopping. Go just do something to get you away from just being so tense and angry all the time. Like, what are you doing? Are you looking for an argument? Like, it's just ridiculous. It's so crazy. Boredom is just, I don't know. And it's like, it's not enough to sit there with your team and agree together. No, because you want to be validated, right? You want your team to be like, oh, that's my team leader. So you go out and you just attack people. And you forget that these are people who have families. And it's like, let's say you win that attack. Let's say you do beat somebody in a verbal argument or whatever it is, or an ethical argument. You beat them. Man, you just ruined a kid's life who is innocent. Their dad or the mother feels like less of a person. They become hard on themselves. Now they're not the parent that they could have been. And what do you get out of it? A sense of pride, a sense of happiness, a sense of more of an inclusion from your team. It's fucking ridiculous. It's childish. It's crazy. It's like when you were in school in the class clown, the teacher would be like, oh, what do you just want all the attention? You just want all the attention? The same person that age is grown up now. And yeah, it's kind of a cool thing now to have all the attention, right? Because that gets you people, that gets the clicks on your journals, and that gets you retweeted on Twitter. It's absurd. It's insane. I don't know. I'm going to get off the topic. I'm going to talk about veganism. Or vegan. Being vegan. I don't know. I think I'm off that topic, but I think it's really important to have a sense of imagination and have a sense of having a sense of self-stabilization, like having a place you can go back to, and having a understanding of other people, and being able to be on the same planet with somebody who you may not agree with. I mean, that is the highest level of maturity nowadays, and it's hilarious that that's the level of maturity that is accepted. Just the ability to sit there and listen to someone else disagree with you. It's hilarious. I know for me, I will, you can say I don't have a backbone or whatever, but if someone starts getting loud with me and I'm not even talking or anything, but I just start agreeing with them, like, because you just got to calm people down, man. It's like everyone around you is just like a big baby. It's so nuts. You can't be wrong. Like, if you're wrong, it's like an automatic lost and an L for you. And it's like every time I've ever progressed anywhere in my life, and I know for everybody else, is because I was wrong, man. Like, that's the beauty of it is that the only way you make progression at all in this world is by being wrong, because then you're right on more things instead of being right on a few things and wrong on a lot of things. You can be right on a lot of things and wrong on a few things, and you just developed more of an arsenal for the world. You develop a more rounded individual. You develop a better way of thinking about the world. You develop more culture acceptance, more of a capability to accept other parts of the world and other people's opinions. That's the greatest thing, right? I mean, we can all sit here and say we love our grandparents even though we don't agree with them. So what's wrong with the rest of the world? Why can't you do that? Why is that so unaccepted? Why can I mean, even like if you talk about like the Middle East and like the shit going on there, I mean, they've been at war for thousands and thousands of years. I don't agree with everything they do. And you know what? I think a lot of it's wrong, and I think a lot of it needs to be stopped. But I also understand that it's a lot more complicated than just stopping it. It's so much more complicated. So things are not black and white. Like this Green Deal and like all these things, it's like people forget that once you start the journey, you are in it, man. Now you're in it. Now the hard work begins. You can't just be half-ass in anything nowadays. And I think so many people are. So many people have this idea that the world is just going to work itself out, but it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. I was talking to someone a few days ago about art, and I was making this, I guess it was just like a thought. It was like a adolescent thought I had in my head. It wasn't full grown. It was a little baby, and I think it's still at its adolescent stage. I'll go ahead and share it with you, people listening to YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. It's interesting. It's interesting. There is, if you look at the dictionary, I'm just gonna Google it real quick. Let's look up how many words in the English dictionary. There are 171,000 words, 171,476 words, and of that, 47,156 of them are obsolete words, so words that don't really get used. And within all those words, it's still, so if I say a word to you, I was reading this in my book, if I say a word to you, you can imagine a certain thing. But like if I say giraffe to you, you have an idea of a giraffe. And if I say giraffe to somebody else, they have an idea of a giraffe. But they don't have the same idea. Like they have maybe the same animal, but maybe in a different, for some reason, someone might have thought giraffes lived in Antarctica. Someone might have thought they lived in Africa. Now, one of them is right, one of them is wrong. One of them might be laying down, one of them might be standing up, one of them might be alive, one of them might be dead, one of them might be jumping, one of them may be fighting. And it's like so words give you the beginning of a thought. And then you can make it more complicated. You could say, the giraffe was cold. So now when you add a few more words, you add 2 more words or 3 more words. The is cold. So the giraffe is cold. So now it wouldn't really make sense that it was in Africa because Africa is not a cold place. But it would make sense if it was in a cold region. So it's like either 2 things are happening. The speaker who just said that the giraffe is cold is wrong. Or, here we go, ready? They're wrong because it's not cold in Africa. And you know that's where giraffes live. They live in Africa because of, just growing up, whatever, a TV, school, whatever it is. You know that they live in Africa. The giraffe is cold. If you just say that, and you just hear that, and you just read it, that's what you could think. So now you've already written off the person. They're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. But what if the person who wrote it, the giraffe is cold, and as they were writing it, They meant it in a more of a emotional state. They wrote it because the mom giraffe, in their head, the mom giraffe is looking at their child who just died by a pack of hyenas or whatever. Now, the giraffe is cold. It's cold because death is upon them. They're gone. They're never coming back. And that's... So there's so many different viewpoints, and that's the world. There's so many different viewpoints on one thing. I mean, just the word, a 3-letter word, God, sparks thousands of different ideas of what God is. What is a God? Is it a spirit? Is it a physical thing? Is it an imaginational thought? What is God? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it kill? Does it bring birth? Bring children in the world? And it's like, that's language. Language gets misconstrued. Language changes all the time. I mean, growing up, I would hear people use the R word. They would say retard all the time. Nowadays, you can't say that. That word is off limits. I would hear people, when I would visit family, like up north, you would hear the word faggot or fag, and that word is horrible. You can't even say that word nowadays. And there's so many, and that's language. It is always misconstrued, and it's used in different ways, and it's, even when it's used the right way, it can be understood the wrong way. You know, it could mean something completely different. They took the kid from his family. Now that, when you say that, your first thought is, why? Or it could be, that's fucked up. Can't do that. Or or if you're somebody who's experienced a rough childhood, you can be like, oh my God, that kid just got saved because he come from a terrible family. Or both the parents died in a fire, and now the kid is rescued but sad, burdened with pain, too young to understand, too young to put the thoughts together. That's language. Language is so powerful. It allows your brain to be imaginative. It allows your thoughts to go in thousands of different directions, but never the same direction as somebody else. And conversation is so important. And that's why I think it's so important when you do conversate, try to minimize the disconnection as much as possible. As much as possible. And that's why I love this podcast, is I can explain my thoughts. And that's why I think it's so important for people to be careful with always texting. Be careful with always Snapchatting, because you can't, like, you can have a full-on text message with someone and it could be a great positive conversation, but they could be doing something that's absolutely horrible. And if you saw them doing it, it would hurt you. But all you're reading is words. I think it's so important to be there. If you're going to have a serious conversation with somebody, if you're going to try to make a point with anybody, and this is kind of cool about the debates, is that they actually bring these people together and they can actually talk. They let them talk. But words are interesting in the sense that they don't give you a direct meaning, even if the author writes them down. And I remember being in school, in English class, or literature, whatever you call it, I was always getting in trouble by my teacher, but not in trouble, but like lower grades, because they would ask us about like theme and what we thought about a certain book and like what the idea of the writer was writing about. And I never had the answer that was accepted by the school or like by my teacher. I always had a completely different viewpoint on what the author was writing about. You know, not like I was trying to be like a argumentative kid. I didn't quite agree with whatever the class was saying or whatever the teacher was saying. And maybe I was trying to be a disruptive kid, but I just wanted to see the other side of it. You know, it's like a rectangle has many different sides, and it's like the way you look at it. Like if I take a square, it's a square. But if I move it just a little bit, it's a diamond. So it's like there's so many different ways to look at so many different viewpoints and different subjects. And that's the same thing with from here on out for the rest of your life. It's like anything that someone did to you or you did to somebody, you have to try to understand it from their viewpoint. But words are so interesting in that, like, and you know, they say like, and you hear it all the time, like, pictures are worth 1,000 words. It's like, why is that? You know, why is that? And I've been putting a lot of thought into it. It's like, because you can't make up something in your head if you see a picture. You know, if you see a picture and 1,000 people are looking at the picture, they're all seeing the same thing. So it's like stage one is good. We are all on the same platform. We're all seeing it differently. Now, depending on your childhood or your genetics or what your life as a kid being grown up and being raised, that picture can be the same physical picture as in the geometrical shapes, the shades of color, the characters in the picture, the landscape of the picture could be the same to me, the person next to me, and 10,000 people in the room. But now what do I pick up on? I could be picking up on many things. If I came from a childhood that was really rough and dangerous, and let's just say the picture is somebody with a knife looking over somebody getting ready to stab them. It's like we all see the same picture, but if I come from a childhood that was completely abusive and that's all I know, and I never was able to get help for it, I could be looking at that person who's about to kill them and just that could be my subject, even though it's supposed to be the person who's about to get stabbed and killed, because you're supposed to feel sorrow for them. And it's like, I was thinking, my point is, all of this was going on in my head when I was like on my phone, ironically, and like using emojis. It's so insane to think that how much progress has been made since, I don't know, the beginning of social media, like the beginning of the technological boom, the internet. Let's just stick to the internet. So much progress has been made. Language has stayed the same. We use the same words. We take some words out. We add some words to the dictionary every year. We add some acronyms. We add some things. But it was like so many things. Like caves are filled with paintings of culture and what a certain culture beliefs were at a certain time. And it was like a way to bridge the gap from one person to another person, but you couldn't do it through the use of words because language wasn't common. And if it was, most people weren't using the same one. I'm pretty sure there was like hierarchies of language, like depending on your socioeconomic class, there were certain, and I mean, that's always been a thing. It still is a thing. You know, the lower socioeconomically you are, most likely the lower educated you are and the more illiterate you are. But these damn pictures, man, they always got the point across. They always got the point across. I can sit here in 2000, look at paintings. Let me look this up. I don't want to be wrong with this. I can look at this this cave painting from 40,000 years ago, which was found in Europe and in Swahili and Indonesia. And I can look at these paintings and I can see them. I see what's going on in these paintings. It's animals. There's hands, there's bison, there's almost like tiger-looking people. And it's like, this is so crazy. I mean, you see all these hands, like I'm looking at a painting right now with like just a bunch of handprints on it. I'd look at this image and if this was all words, it would help a lot, but I probably wouldn't be, it wouldn't be the same language. It wouldn't be the same language, but I see all these hands on here and there's, I would say 100, 150 hands. What does that mean? I mean, if they put both hands up in the cave, 60, 70 people in a cave, that tells me a lot about the culture. That means they were close. That means there was probably a lot of respect for family. There's probably a close-knit relationship with everybody. I mean, that's what these hands would represent. Otherwise, there would only be one hand or two hands. And maybe these hands represented, like, people and, like, relationships. And I'm sure they were just, I would connect this, like, maybe a ceremony. There's probably a ceremony going on. And this hand was, like, a sign of your relationship to God or whatever it was. And it's like, oh, well, maybe there was a religion at this time. Maybe there was, you can make so many references from pictures, from images, from art, from painting. And, I mean, there's pictures of lions chasing animals, people with domesticated animals, a lot of bison and animals like that. And that's so crazy for me to see. Like, you can kind of tell a lot about a culture by what they left behind, what they left behind, and that's art. Art does that for you. Art allows you to transform ideas, um, transfer ideas from people, from groups, from cultures, from societies, from the oldest societies to the most modern societies. They allow you to make that transaction, make that understanding. And it's like even nowadays in our phones, no matter how far we get technologically, the best way for us to communicate nowadays, like if you really want to get your point across, you drop an emoji down. Like I mean that's just so insane. Like I could say I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, but if I use like if I keep on saying I'm sad, like I'm not doing too well, it's been a hard day, but then I put an emoji that's kind of like got a half smile on it. The sad is fine, but I look at that half smile, I'm like, oh, damn, that means something more. And it's so, my table sounds like it's going to fall. It's so true. It's so true. It's just so interesting to think about the world like in that sense that art brings us together. Art goes down in history, and it is the foundation of what we remember societies and cultures off of. That, and I mean, art is architecture, right? The development of certain great nations, the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Roman Catholic Empire. It's like, you know, we have papers and we have writing and all that's fine and awesome and everything, but the arts are what really allow our imagination to expand. And they give us some form of understanding because we can see a huge coliseum. We can see a huge coliseum, and then we can go into the coliseum. We can see like little caves and like different DNA of different animals, and it just lets your mind explode. Where if it was all written down, say there was no coliseum, but someone just wrote what the coliseum was, you could imagine it, but your mind probably wouldn't get as far out there as if you could see it physically. And then it just becomes a lot more connected. It becomes a lot more connected. And I think that's that's so important. That's so important to always understand that. To always understand that where we are right now is just going to be these cave paintings to people 30,000, 40,000 years. And understanding that your attention, how much of your attention is actually guided by you and your own thoughts. Like, how much ability do you have of your own thoughts? Like, are they strictly guided by other people? When was the last time you sat in a room quiet and you came up with your own opinion on the world or your own thought process? Does it exist anymore? What are you losing? What's an individual? Is an individual, like, what is human? Like, define human. Relating or characteristic of people or human beings. A human being, especially a person, as distinguished from animal or science fiction, an alien. Of or characteristics of people's better qualities, such as kindness and sensitivity. It's like, how much do you actually truly just want to be another number, or do you want to have an impact? Do you want to have your own way of thinking? I think that's so important. And those are the people that are most remembered. I mean, those are the people that will always be the most remembered people ever. It's true, man. It's true. I mean, I do a lot of I'm big into philosophy. I love to listen to different people and their philosophical quotes, and I love trying to understand different thinkers and different educators of the world. And it's like it's so easy. It's so easy to get caught up in a world where everything around you is just so scary, and it's so easy to deny your thoughts, especially nowadays. There's so many distractions. It's so hard to actually gain a grasp and put an anchor down to any of your opinions and fulfill them out and build on them and have them make sense to other people. And you feel naked when you say something and god damn, like you really believed in it. But then it turns out it was complete bullshit. It probably wasn't true. It's a very emptying feeling. And a gentleman by the name of Frederick Nietzsche, I don't know, Nietzsche. He has a few quotes I really like. One of my favorite ones is when you look, and I've done like a post on it before. When you look into an abyss, the abyss also looks into you, and that's like the most raw quote you could find. When you look into the abyss, when you look into a uncharted part of your soul, the part of you that is dark, the part of you that you don't like to open up, you don't like to move the covers off of, you keep the blinds on, you don't ever roll down the window and just look out. It looks back at you. It's always watching you. The dark thoughts in your head, the ideas that you are trying to push down because you're so scared that if everyone ever heard what you actually had to say, that maybe you would sound like an idiot. Maybe you would be outcasted, but most likely you wouldn't. Most likely you'd be elevated, because people, as much as they don't want to believe it, when you're a thinker and you're somebody who doesn't follow the norm, that shit is so comforting for people. It's scary, but it is comforting. And you yourself is just watching. You live a life of half truth. There's so much built up inside of everybody that I think you can find a lot of comfort in. I really do. And I know this podcast has been kind of everywhere, and it might have got on some touchy subjects, but it's something that I really do think is important. I think it's important to find a sense of self-being and actually having thoughts that to you are well thought out. And as long as they don't harm other people, you should be proud of them. You should be proud of different things that you've been able to come up with. You should share it. Pictures are amazing, and imagination is great, and it's something that needs to be found again in this world. I mean, that's how this world has gotten this far. I mean, imagination from everything. The imagination of money. I mean, dollars are nothing without a collective idea that it's real. Religion is physically probably not possible, but if we all believe it, it's just as real as gold, which is an element, but gold itself has no value to it. No value. Government has no value to it. As long as if we all stop understanding it and stop thinking that they have power, it has no hold on anything anymore. It's like, but the one thing you do have hold on is yourself. Expand on yourself. Take care of yourself. I'm going to go ahead and end this episode right here. This is episode 6, I believe, or episode 7. If you guys liked it, please give us some feedback. Tell your friends and family about it. Guests should be coming on semi-soon. Hopefully, in the next month or so, we will have guests on this podcast. This is a great podcast. Have a great week, guys. Stay blessed. Thank you so much for listening. Have yourself an amazing day.